the use of popular cinema to advance a project of hate uh, against India's Muslims. I see echoes of Nazi Germany. Do you agree?
The commercial part, the entertainment part, the artistic part is completely devoid when you create a propaganda cinema.
Right.
And this is what is happening in today's time. And not only in the larger corridor of cinema, but as Professor said, and you also mentioned, the idea of the social media that cinema is just one small part, but the way it cuts into multiple parts
The
and
public
celebrated it,
communication
yes,
around it, yes.
I think that is the new danger, which even the Nazis never had.
Dhurandhar, which is it's earning crores. This is an example of a film made by a filmmaker who is ideologically convinced by Hindutva.
Okay.
And the ideology of Hindutva.
And a competent filmmaker, technically, you will say.
Technically, very competent, very well made, etc. But what is technical? I mean, how is technique to be divorced from, and how is form to be divorced from?
Absolutely, content.
The larger political clout to stop that, it is the institutions, a censor board, which require that it should watch a good film, suggest whatever they wish to suggest, and release it. It is such an easy task, but they will stall it. They will hang it.
They don't want the government, the powers that be, and those institutions that have been completely colonized by this kind of an ideology, do not want to see anything that questions or criticizes institutions or ideologies. The ideologies of the upper classes, the government, or in any institution that is powerful. So power should not be questioned at all.
That possibility that Dalits can be also shown as a hero figure or angry figure, or who can bring some change. That possibility was never articulated. Like for that matter, Diwar, the surname of the character is Verma. He is of course part of the trade union, the working class, and living on the footpath.
But not Dalit. Yes. Salam, Namaste, Zindabad, friends. This is Harish Mander. One more episode of Ye Daagh, Ujala, the series that Karwan-e-Mohabbat is doing along with Scroll on the state of the Indian Republic. This is we're recording at a time when 2025 is coming to an end. And we thought it was a good time to talk about our cinema, and in particular the politics of Indian cinema in this very difficult, turbulent time in which the Republic is passing through. And I have two incredibly wonderful friends in the panel. Both Ira Bhaskar is one of the country's leading film scholars, teachers, and taught cinema studies for many years in Jawaharlal Nehru University, and continues to write and study film. And we have Harish Wankhede, who also teaches in Jawaharlal Nehru University. He teaches political science, but Harish has a passion, like I do, for cinema, and does a lot of writing about cinema as well. Right, so very welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Let me start really by somewhat provocatively looking back at Nazi Germany and the place that cinema had in the Nazi project. This cinema was still a new form at that time. But historians tell us that Hitler was very clear about how important it was to use cinema to propagate the ideas and the ideology of Nazi Germany. And it went so far that when 1944-45 came, when it was even clear that they were probably losing the war, They even shut down schools and colleges, but cinemas kept going. It was that important for them in that project. And Hitler himself used to promote films, watch them publicly with his senior colleagues. First question is, I see a certain Nazification of Indian cinema today. I see similar trends, worryingly, for the ideology of Hindutva and the use by India's political establishment of cinema for advancing their ideology, which very centrally centers, if you look at the ideology of the RSS, very centrally at the heart of the ideology of the RSS is hatred for India's Muslims and Christians to some degree. But so the use of popular cinema to advance a project of hate against India's Muslims, I see echoes of Nazi Germany. Do you agree? Ira, why don't you start?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yes, I think you are absolutely right. It's a Nazification not only of cinema, but also of public discourse in India today, and of institutions, of public life. At many levels, this is happening, and it's happening very overtly, but also very covertly. Meaning, it's both paradoxically.
Yeah, it's both on your face, but also happening underground.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly, and it's happening in ways in which those people who are involved in making films, for instance, are subconsciously, sometimes consciously, imposing on their work and in their thinking censorship, self-censorship, right? And hence they are not. It's not really free expression, because they're concerned all the time.
you're always you looking as if somebody's
Exactly.
behind your shoulder and looking at what
And
you're
they're
doing.
afraid of what may happen to their work of art, or whatever they're producing,
Or work of commerce.
or work of commerce, or anything. So they therefore comply, even if they're not directly asked to do that. They comply with the prevailing discourse, or what they perceive is will be taken well with the powers that be. And sometimes it's not even the powers that be, it's their minions and people at different levels.
I was going to say that I think a lot of this self-censorship is also fear of the mob.
Exactly. Fear of the mob. I mean, in films, it's very clear that because everyone, and especially those who belong to the right ideology, those who are the Hindutva mobs, for instance, they've been given a free rein to do whatever they want. And their main form of expression, of course, is violence. But apart from violence, it is also court cases, it is delaying decisions,
And the social media, filling the social media with hate.
trolling and everything. Yeah. So for Hitler and for Goebbels, it was very important. Cinema was very important because that was the only form of a public outreach form. That was the only public outreach form that had the kind of power to influence millions at a time, right? Today there's social media and everything. So now it's a strategy that is very clear, in the sense that you put something out there, and if anyone objects, or even if anyone doesn't object, the trolls are given a full freedom to go ahead and malign you.
Many of the trolls are followed right up to the Prime Minister.
Oh yes.
And so the backing is clear.
It's
yes.
very clear. It's very clear. So so in this kind of an environment, it's almost as if your internal being has been colonized by this ideology. It's very frightening, and more people who initially may not have taken this kind of a position are increasingly doing it.
But Ira, just one quick question on this. I fear that fear is only part of the reason for the cinema that we are seeing. do you feel that some of it is also conviction of those filmmakers?
Absolutely, because today everyone who may have felt in the past all that the Hindutva ideology propagates, but didn't have the courage to openly discuss it, has now
got the space.
Has got the space to do that very. And there are filmmakers, for instance, let me give the example of Dhurandhar, which is it's earning crores at the box office. It's very clearly.
You had the courage to watch it.
I wasn't going to watch it. I usually don't watch Kashmir Files and Kerala Story in these kinds of films. Kashmir Files I watched 2 years later after it was made because a student was writing a paper. And so I had to be able to correct it. And so I watched it then on the OTT and platform. And this I did go, and I thought I'll go because we were going to
have this conversation,
today. So let me see it. And I had the time. I was able to take out that time. And since it's the most recent example of this, also doing very well at the box office, this is an example of a film made by a filmmaker who is ideologically convinced by Hindutva.
Okay.
And the ideology of Hindutva.
And a competent filmmaker, technically, you would say.
Technically, very competent, very well made, etc. But what is technical? How is technique to be divorced from, and how is form to be divorced from?
Absolutely, content.
And so it's extremely violent. Its violence is at the service of a belief structure, of an ideology that Muslims are very violent people. Pakistan is a very, very violent nation. It is, you don't see any normal Muslim there. Everyone is a terrorist or a gangster. So these kinds of perceptions about Muslims, it's propagating this. It was reproducing it again and again, and it's ridiculous because it's also uses, makeup is done in such a way that the individuals who are playing those parts, those characters, look like the original. So it's based on true events. It's a fictional film based on true events, supposedly, and it's selective, as all these films are. It'll only selectively choose what to put together in order to serve the ideology that the film carries, right? So yes, in answer to your question, that it's not done out of fear, it's also done out of conviction.
Which is the most frightening.
Yes, it is, and therefore more dangerous. Right?
Harish, my very difficult question, are we seeing a Nazification of our cinema?
Yeah, I believe that like the way Professor just suggested, that there was always a relationship between power, politics and cinema and cultural politics. Like for that matter, when Dadasaheb Phalke was making his mythological cinema, he thought that he is basically contributing in building some kind of a cultural nationalism. Even 50s and 60s, when we see our cinema, we thought that somewhere the Nehruvian socialist values are very much promoted by our cinema.
Secularism, socialism, all of it was
right. And even in South, for that matter, the Tamil and the Andhra example, where cinema and political forces are colliding together to build some kind of a narrative to influence the public. So that durability of that kind of a process where cinema and politics and power collide together to bring some narratives. That's a kind of a that's kind of phenomena we have not only in India, probably across globe. But the division that you are making, I think that's very crucial. That when cinema or the whole instrument of cinema is utilized not for what you call a positive force of politics like nation building or secularism for that matter, or harmony or social harmony,
but for social equality.
But for a very, very negative trait. Against a cinema that can produce hatred, that can produce animosity. And Nazi films actually did that, continuously harping about the presence of a superhero in their lives and also the villain is used. That kind of cinema is absolutely dangerous, and that is the kind of division that we need to make. That the current cinema is doing that it is the communalization of the overall format. It is the propaganda cinema, that it is propagate a peculiar kind of hatred against some people. And that cinema is absolutely dangerous. It is also not an art in that way. that they can call it a cinematic art or entertainment film, but the larger concern is not about to do that, not even commercial, I believe.
Yeah.
That it is the commercial part, the entertainment part, the artistic part is completely devoid when you create a propaganda cinema. Yeah. And this is what is happening in today's time. And not only in the larger corridor of cinema, but as Professor said, and you also mentioned, the idea of the social media, that cinema is just one small part, but the way it cuts into multiple parts,
the
and
public communication
yes,
around it, yes.
I think that is the new danger, which even the Nazis never had.
They didn't have it.
But today we have a cinema which is extremely popular, and then we have this multiple social media offshoots,
and
which
influencers and amplifiers.
So what they call the media ecology now, that the right wing is so powerful in doing that, that they can create one small snippet somewhere, but the kind of popularity they can produce out of that, and through that creating some kind of hatred and animosity and communal anxiety amongst people. I think this is the danger that we have now seen. And this is absolutely terrible that in last 2 decades this has happened, in a multifarious way. It's multiplied every year. Last year there were around, even a small number will suggest that there are around 2 dozens of such films.
Wow, yeah.
Which are basically propaganda cinema.
Yeah, I mean,
and the trouble is that even what is not propaganda cinema, I mean, it's why a film like The Great Shamsuddin Family struck such a chord, was that you saw just a normal middle class family which happened to be Muslim.
Right.
You're not seeing Muslims as just people like any other people. Even that became a almost radical comment, because you were so used to seeing Muslims being stereotyped, and we'll come to that a little later. But we'll talk a little more about in more detail about what this cinema is propagating. But I think for a moment I wanted to also talk about what this cinema doesn't want us to see, and the kind of censorship that we are seeing. I mean, the emergency is probably the only time when we can recall this kind of censorship. I recently had the fortune to have a private showing of a film called Punjab 95. And along with Homebound, I would imagine that this is one of the most significant films that have been made for a long time. And this is a film which tried to depict what happened during militancy in Punjab, and the whole project by which the police had not just a free hand but an incentive to kill people in large numbers. And about there's a person called Jaswant Kalra, who extraordinarily courageous man who encountered this and then made it his life's purpose to expose it. And then he was disappeared and finally killed as part of this project. This is a film that was paying tribute to this hero, and I think it did it with great restraint and grace, and I'm familiar with the story. I've followed it for a long time. It was almost entirely true. And this is a film where the government, the censor board, asked for some, I forget how many, nearly 200 cuts, which actually would have, including the name Punjab itself.
Punjab and Jaswant Singh Kalra, also everything.
Everybody is disappeared from a film about disappearances. So the film effectively has not been released either in India or anywhere in the world. And it's a film I feel every caring Indian should have the chance to see. But this is only one example. We saw Homebound, and the kinds of cuts they wanted. Phule, again a film which I feel every Indian should see, about he and Savitribai and Fatima Sheikh, and the first women's school teachers in the country. I mean, it's such a heroic story. and again they wanted cuts, and so on and so forth. So, so I thought, as both of you as film scholars, what do you make out about what the government or the ruling establishment through the censor board does not want us to see?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you raised the issue of Punjab '95. I've also, luckily, through you and also through Hanit Rehan, the filmmaker, been able to see the film, and it's an extremely moving film, extremely moving.
It stayed with me for
Oh,
days and
absolutely.
days and days.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And it's very moving. It's also, at one level, a film that makes you believe in human beings, that there are human beings who will put their necks on the line and they will stand up and will not be afraid of anyone.
Ira, but probably the single most moving moment for me was when he's talking to his wife,
Yes.
and he's explaining why he's taking these risks. And having lived through that period, I know how much of a risk it was in the middle of Sikh militancy to do this. And he explains to his wife, I just cannot look at injustice and look away. And she says, I know that about you, and that's why I know what you're going to do. You're going to do. I mean, it was such a morally
wonderful. And then the way after he is disappeared, the way she carries on that struggle. I mean, it is just amazing.
And all of it is fact.
He said that actually in an interview. He said it. He's also told me this on the phone, that everything in the film is drawn from testimonies. There are court rulings on it. There are, there are evidence. The evidence is people giving testimony, on this case. So it's there. It's real. It's real. It's also done in a very, very, very mature, very
restrained way,
restrained, realist form.
Yes.
There's nothing. The violence is so chilling because it's also conveyed in a manner,
in a very quiet way.
very quiet way.
Yes.
There is no tom-tomming about it, and there's no. But it's chilling because of that, and it's chilling because it actually demonstrates how a system can be completely ruthless and completely inhuman when it comes to,
But that was under the Congress regime. Why would a BJP government not want this film to be
because
seen?
they don't want us to make any connections with the police today. Okay, Delhi police. How is Delhi police behaving?
Yes,
After all,
the UAP
yes,
use and
exactly, and they don't want anybody to make a connection between them and the legal system here, the judiciary here today, where people have been in jail for over 5 years. We know all about that, on charges that are completely trumped up and false.
or in UP there's an encounter every 8 or 12 hours.
Exactly.
And which they are tom-tomming, so it's not as if it's gone into history.
So they're not that concerned about the Congress regime and we are better than that, because they know that people will not believe it, right? Because that is how we are living today. They don't want to make any connection with any institution or any processes that are going on today. That's one reason. The other reason is also Canada, and the immediate reason could also be that India's relationship with Canada, thanks to the powers that be today.
And Jaswant Kalra did go to Canada.
He did go to Canada. He spoke there. He had the support of Canada, and therefore, with all the with all the responses that a lot of people, even those who may actually believe in this ideology, even they may not have liked the fact that the Indian government has been implicated
in criminal actions,
in criminal actions
in
outside,
foreign lands.
in
Yes.
foreign lands. So that is one concern. But it's not even just that. It's also the perception that at an of everyday life in India today, especially in Punjab, of course, but also in Delhi, also in other parts of India,
Right.
where
UP,
Assam. I mean, in the whole of North India, definitely. People can't live and conduct their normal life because there is so much fear. But apart from fear, there's also restrictions of every kind, right? And police violence is so common today. It's so common that um, you will make any thinking person will make that connection with Punjab 95.
Which is why they didn't want to,
Right.
they wanted
Yeah,
to be
they don't
seen.
want us to see that.
Harish, let me give the examples of Phule and Homebound. What do you think, why did the government want cuts in, such significant cuts in those films?
I know, so probably the idea is very easy to kind of make sense of. One is, of course, the institutions in India are not fair today at any level. Yeah. Most of the institutions are collapsed and they're contaminated by a particular kind of an ideological force now, the right-wing Hindutva force. So whatever goes against that makeup, that larger concern about nation, or the whole idea about what is political right according to the Hindutva forces. If anything goes against that, probably they are really become very anxious and they think that some trouble is coming. And therefore, all institutions are doing to protect what they call the Hindutva project. And Phule, or for that matter, a story between a Dalit boy and a Muslim young boy, two unemployed people, it's not a great story for the Hindutva project. Yeah. Right? And Phule is
and the discrimination that they face in everyday life is...
So it is such an antithetical to the overall concern that they have about India's future. And when you read about Phule in Maharashtra, he is a giant killer. He was one of the most powerful articulator against the Brahmanical Hindutva project in India. The way he suggested that the Brahmini elites are the main culprits for the backwardness and the poverty and the degradation of the farming community. So that kind of a very, very powerful voice. And one of the first voice to deal with the education, for that matter, education for the deprived and the marginalized community. So his persona hardly goes along with the ideas that Hindutva promotes.
And Harish, I mean, just to underline why education was such a major issue, is that you have a segment of our people who for 2000 years have been deprived the right to read a book. And he broke that through. And not only for people of that caste, but for women of that caste. So he's such a radical hero.
Absolutely.
But you feel that it goes against the heart of the Hindutva ideology again.
And therefore the trouble with his presentation, how to present him as a radical or as a reformist. And Anant Mahadevan, when he was making that film, he thought that the radicalness of Phule should be portrayed. And in all earlier representation of Phule, whether it in the Discovery of India, Nehru's book, or its representation on TV, or even the earlier film, Acharya Yatre made Phule earlier in black and white. Even that, the Phule is extremely radical. He's very powerful.
And again, what I liked about Phule was that it again said it very quietly, but it was such a heroic figure. And so radical.
Therefore, the trouble with what they call the Dalit Bahujan way to deal with the social elites. That it is not a kind of a cordiality between them, but some kind of a distancing and the power of the Dalit Bahujan to challenge them. So this power is extremely important for Phule's writing, and probably that film is somewhere showcasing that there is a larger unity between what they call Shudrati Shudra against the priestly class.
And the Muslim.
And the Muslims, of course.
Which makes it even more, I mean, it's an incredible story because the person who gave him solace, shelter was a Muslim friend.
And also the missionaries, the Christian missionaries.
And the Christian missionaries. That was actually, I think, probably the most difficult part to swallow, was that it was because of his exposure to Christian missionaries that he accessed education in the first place.
So the whole making of whole orientation of the film suggests that there is an alternative ways to deal with nation. That Dalit, Muslims, the women, and of course those who have a kind of a ethical way to deal with any idea. They should come together against what they call the priesthood or the dominant elites of that part of time. And this message was radical. And probably no Hindutva figure will like to endorse such kind of an idea. And therefore the cuts. There were around 27 cuts but were promoted, including one cut where the Dalit man was showcased that he has groomed hanged on his wrist, and he's basically cleaning the street. This scene was also cut.
Yeah, so, I unfortunately didn't see the film. I saw the film after the cut, so I can just imagine what was what there was before that. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and probably Homebound is again, of course, the wonderful artistic representation of India's municipal towns or rural part today. But the message of that film.
Also a very tender film.
Yes.
I mean, I mean, I think it's so tender. I mean, I'm bad at this. I mean, I do weep in films, but that film had me crying almost throughout. It was such a
beautiful. So the message of that film, that the Dalit Muslims are coming together. It had that kind of what others will call some kind of wokeness of that film, that it wants to touch also the gender issue, the communal issue, the unemployment issue, the class issue. So it is of course a very, very significant entry point to multiple corridors, suggesting that we need to somewhere bring that kind of a bridge.
But again, done with restraint and with grace. I mean, it wasn't loud, but yes, gender also came in. Many things came. Yeah.
And another film is of course Santosh, which was again restricted by the censor, of course made outside India. But that film also shows the same kind, the kind of police institution we have, terrible, corrupt, and a very patriarchal institution, and how a young woman survives into that particular model. I think that film should have been watched by many, but again censored.
Yeah, I mean, it was very troubling because this young woman who comes in because her husband is killed, so in compassion grounds, almost starts living with that ethos and surviving through the ethos, including the communal, including the casteist. And at some point, she finds herself so transformed that she feels has to leave. Yes, it was a very troubling film. Yes,
and therefore the trouble for the current institutions, current state, that they do not want that such kind of story should come up. They do not want much discussion or deliberation on such themes and ideas, and therefore more than the larger political clout to stop that, it is the institutions, censor board, which require that it should watch a good film, suggest whatever they wish to suggest, and release it. It is such an easy task, but they will stall it. They will hang it. They will not suggest. They will suggest that there is no need for such films. So such kind of a larger politicization of an institution today, which was probably earlier maybe some kind of harshness were there with this institution, but the kind of institution censor board has become today, that extremely dangerous for any kind of a good cinematic art.
Yeah, I mean, basically they don't want the government, the powers that be, and those institutions that have been completely colonized by this kind of an ideology, do not want to see anything that questions or criticizes institutions or ideologies. You know, the ideologies of the upper classes, the government, or in any institution that is powerful. So power should not be questioned at all. Power is a right for the people who are in power to have.
And I think it's really important to understand that the Nazification is not just about films like Dhurandhar and Kashmir Files and Chhawa. It's also about what you're not allowing people to see and say. I think
so. Patriarchy can't be questioned. You know, institutions can't be questioned. Relations between people can't be questioned. I mean, if it doesn't follow a patriarchal, conservative, if the relationship is different, then it can't be questioned.
But I think also standing up to injustice, and solidarities between oppressed groups. I think both of those are things that we need to hold.
And nobody should become or acquire a heroic figure if that figure is not part of the mythological
in Hindutva story,
part of the Hindutva story. Basically that, and that is really, sort of very, very troubling. But I at this point also want to say that yes, it's true, all those films were made. I mean, last year you said that 24 films, for instance, were propagandist and so on. But I also want to say that some of these propagandist films fail at the box office. They actually,
They're just badly made.
yeah, they're badly made, and whatever the reason is, Kesari was a disaster. Prithviraj Chauhan, the film on him, was a disaster. Even the films on Modi,
Right.
they were also disasters. They didn't do well.
And on Manmohan Singh.
And on the attempt to criticize
Yeah.
and Indira Gandhi. So all these films have not done well at the box office. So they have not got the kind of support and circulation that the powers that be wanted, or the filmmakers wanted.
But still, Kashmir Files, Kerala Files,
right.
Kerala Story, yeah.
Kerala Story, and Dhurandhar and Chava,
Right.
I think have actually
Done very
torn
well.
apart our
So-
social fabric.
So
Yes.
I have this small caveat of film list where there is a kind of a long list of Hindutva films which are terrible and flop, but there is also super hit films.
So let's
Yeah.
hear.
Let's hear.
Like
Thank-
from Omerita, if you know Hasan Mehta's film, Ghazi Attack, Razakar, Savarkar,
These are all the flops.
Hindutva,
Flops.
Ajay, Article 370, Bengal Files.
370 was a hit, I thought.
370 was it. Bahattar Hure, PM Narendra Modi, Sabarmati Report, Taj Story, JNU, Jahangir Union National
JNU.
University, Tejas, Samrat Prithviraj, Ram Setu, Main Atal Hoon, Panipat, Mission Istanbul, all flopped.
My God. Okay.
And then we have good hits where there is, of course, villainification of the Muslims, but huge budget, big star cast, and better director.
Which are these?
Padmavat, Tanaji, Bajirao Mastani, Suryavanshi, Kashmir Files, Kerala Files, Animal, Dhurandhar for sure, today's Gadar 2, Baby, Holiday. This is all post 2014.
Yeah.
Nirja, Razi, Uri Surgical Strike, Kesari, Tiger Zinda Hai. These are all after 2014. They are all probably have made huge money.
Yeah.
But again, another caveat. I think this is important.
But before you say that, can I just make one point here, small point, which is that when I saw Padmavat, and I think about the film that Sanjay Leela Bhansali made before that, Bajirao Mastani, both are very successful films at the box office. But the Bajirao Mastani, in fact, the first half an hour I was very worried. I said, oh God, another Hindu film.
In fact, the one I don't agree with is Bajirao Mastani.
Bajirao Mastani is actually a critique of, no, but it's also a critique of Brahminism.
Right.
Because he takes on the power of the Brahmin, the way Brahmins control the rulers and the families, and he takes that on, and he remains committed to his partial Muslim wife. I mean, she's not entirely Muslim, but
Because it's dealt as a love story.
yeah,
That it is not just a political film about its empire, but it is as a human, Bajirao as a human
But
who
it
falls in
doesn't
love.
leave you with a sense of hatred, I mean,
Right,
which is my bottom line.
Yeah,
I think if a film
yeah.
leaves you
Right.
with a sense of hatred, but just as a test of how dedicated a film scholar you are, how many of the first list have you seen?
Some, not all.
Not all.
Amrit I have watched.
I must confess to have not seen a single one. So I just
I haven't
Samrat
seen Omerta.
Prithviraj I have watched. Ram Setu I have watched.
okay,
Panipat I have watched.
okay, yeah.
right.
But
No, I've seen others.
okay.
I've seen others on this
But
list.
I was
but
another
not
good
Panipat.
caveat. I think this is interesting. That 2014 also saw a Muslim representation or films about Muslims where the Muslims are also what they call a heroic figure, a vulnerable person but heroic, and the communal part is not played much.
Which one?
Like for that matter, you watch Kedarnath. A love
Yes,
story between
yes,
a Muslim
yes.
boy and a Hindu girl.
Yes.
Or
And
Dear
it did
Zindagi.
well. It did well.
Yeah, it did well.
Which others?
Dear Zindagi.
Dear Zindagi, Sultan, Salman Khan is a Muslim wrestler. Naam Shabana, another film where she is a spy. Gully Boy, of course.
Of course.
Gulabo Sitabo, Amitabh Bachchan played lead. Secret Superstar, Rais, Fitur, Mulk, great film.
Yeah, Mulk is probably the best.
Wonderful
in this
film.
list, yeah.
Aligarh,
Yeah.
again, great film. Haider, Homebound, of course, Pathan, Bheed, and Gangubai Kathiawad. So you'll find that Muslim characters are
But
also.
Gangubai Kathiawad.
There is one Muslim character Ajay Devgan played.
Ajay Devgan. Yeah.
So
Real swag.
that's really lovely that you've done this preparation. I think it'll be interesting for all of us. But that brings me to the third part of what I thought we would discuss. I wanted to ask, just because you've done a lot of scholarship and writing about how Muslims are depicted in Indian cinema, I wanted to request you to look at the last 25 years. Since we are hitting a quarter century this year. And also because you've done a lot of work around Dalit depiction. Just about these two, if you could um, tell us from a film scholar perspective, how do you see, I mean, from our younger days, from the 50s, etc., 50s, 60s, the Muslim was almost a necessary part of the formula as a good character. Rahim Chacha, who's kind, he's nationalist, he's helpful, etc. The other thing that you used to see, or they were very glamorous, Mere Mehboob and that kind of thing. I mean,
courtesan films.
Courtesan,
and so Muslim social.
And Muslim social.
Or costume drama.
So I'm saying that all of that is far, far left behind. So just the last 25 years, how do you see the depiction of Muslims and how do you see the depiction of Dalits, just in terms of scholarship?
Right. So if we look back at our history, film history, the figure of the Muslim, yes, was represented as a nationalist Muslim or as a kind-hearted, sort of chacha next door and so on. Films didn't, from the 50s onwards or even the 40s onwards, were not portrayed negatively, except, and this is, but at the same time, there was not a proliferation of Muslim figures except in a particular genre called the Muslim social. Okay, and the Muslim
and they were there more like an exotic kind of.
Well, the beginning of the genre happens because there was some tension and there was a general perception that Muslims are not interested in modernity. They only look to they live in the past, and they're constantly talking about how great the Muslim rulers were, etc. And they don't want to engage with the present and the contemporary, and they're not future oriented. And the one genre which dealt with the contemporary is a massive one called the social. The social. And usually all the socials were Hindu social, meaning there was no Muslim figure in it, or occasionally there was a Muslim figure, but it was dominantly Hindu communities, right?
So the progressive cinema.
Exactly, right? So some Muslim filmmakers reacting to this went to K. Abbas and said that, you should take on this challenge and you should make a film, you should make a Muslim social so that we can counter this. Because the social is a genre that's interested in the contemporary, so you should do it. And he got very annoyed with them, and he said, "Please go away." He's a Marxist, a leftist. I don't mean, what is this Hindu and Muslim? We are all Indians and so on. So he didn't want to have anything to do with them. But nevertheless, these filmmakers went ahead and started making these films, and it took about in the 40s, 41, and it took about 3 years. So by 1943, the genre consolidated as a genre which was not about modernity necessarily, but it was a genre about Muslim aristocracy, the way of life, because a lot of curiosity because of Parda, etc., about this way of life, and the critiquing. So it was a double-edged kind of a form, because it critiqued the Muslim community. So it was directed again towards the Muslim community. Look inside, don't, and they had figures like the decadent Nawab and, lack of modern education, lack of professionalization, etc. So these filmmakers wanted to address that lacune or that absence of education, etc., and started making films where there was education and where the heroes became professionals. So Ashok Kumar is a doctor in Najma and so on. And not only, so there was the Nawabi life, it has its grace and whatever, and it also has a modernizing tendency, okay, in which education and professionalization were the two values and trends that were considered important, right? Of course, resolutions were often, sort of conservative, but nevertheless, this was a trend, and the nostalgic aspect of this genre, or let's say the celebratory aspect of the genre, was to celebrate the contribution of Muslim life, cultural contribution of Muslim life to the nation.
But
so
it
the
was,
Qawwali,
but it was of the aristocracy.
of the aristocracy, of
Muslim
course,
aristocracy.
yeah, because the cultural understanding was that the Muslims contributed, all of these things, right? The festivals and especially music and dance and that kind of thing. Paradoxically, dance, which normally is not not allowed, right? But from
the last 25 years.
Yeah, but even before the last 25 years, 80s onwards, increasing portrayal of the Muslim as a terrorist, as a gangster, as a rioteer. So the people who actually are doing all of this during the 80s and 90s. Again, surprisingly, in the last 25 years, there are more portrayals of Muslims it's not just with terrorists and so on, than they used to be earlier. So
there's more diversity.
There is more diversity, and they are appearing on screen, which they didn't appear except for the Muslim social. It's paradox through historicals also. They were either the great historicals or the Muslim social, where the Muslim appears in a grand.
But the working class.
Working class is missing, except in the Indian New Wave. 70s, through the 70s, starting from the late 60s, 69 onwards, through the 70s and 80s. So you have Salim Langri Pe Mat Ro. Yeah. So the new wave filmmakers are making films about ordinary Muslim life, working class. In Salim Langri, his father works in a factory, right? And then the factory's closed down and he's without, etc. So new wave is looking at Muslim life, right? But these are sort of not big mainstream films. And then starts the 90s, and you have Bombay, you have Zakhn, you have many films that begin. And now, with Gully Boy, Secrets of all the films that he has mentioned, there's so many variations. Not all of those films are about terrorists. Not all of those films are about gangsters, etc. So there is more variety. There is diversity, and their voices are being heard in different kinds of films.
So how would you explain this politically? Is this a conscious choice of the filmmaker to break both the sort of romanticized version and the sort of
the new wave definitely did that. So Garam Hawa, for instance, big films and very big new wave films, some like Garam Hawa that people still see.
I'm saying of the last 25 years.
No, so I'm saying it is the influence of that cinema, and a lot of forms also have been taken from that cinema, and the pressure of the present, the contemporary, which is the communalization.
So they are responding to that.
They are responding to that. I mean, partition, for instance, which exists as a metaphor for contemporary communalism. This begins from Tamas onwards, Garmama onwards, but definitely Tamas, which actually declares that.
But the ordinary Muslim, I mean, there was this, I was reading 10 million views for a debate between a Mufti and Javed Akhtar about the existence of God. I just felt that why do you have to bring a Mufti into the discussion? I mean, why is that? Why could they not have? I mean, say Hilal Ahmed, he's a believing Muslim and he's a thoughtful person. I would much rather have him. But this whole representation of the Muslim either as gangster or Maulvi or it's great that there are films that are breaking out of that.
They are, and I wanted, since you're talking about the working class, I don't know if you've seen a very beautiful film called Nakash.
No.
You must see it. It is on YouTube. You must see it. It's a small film made by a Muslim filmmaker who has made several films. Now, I think 3. And I told him on the phone when I was interviewing him, I said that, I don't know if you've realized, but you've made a Banaras trilogy. He's from Banaras, from a village near Banaras. And he laughed and he said, it's because I come from there. Very nice films, 3 films, very nice. And
which are the others?
There is one film called Alif, I think it's that. It's about education.
Okay.
And there's another one I'm forgetting the name. There are 3 films, and in a way you can say they're Muslim social, but they're not the 6 classic Muslim
working class.
They are working class people, poor working class or low middle class, and their aspirations. But Nakash is my favorite because it's also heartbreaking as a film. Why? Because the central character, the two central, it's a Muslim world, okay, but not only, because the two central characters, two Muslim central characters are, one is a Nakashi, so he sculpts the background of temples, Hindu temples, all the statues that are there, all the relief work that is being done and all the embellishment in gold and silver is all being done by him. And it's a Khandani Pesha. His father did it, his grandfather did it. So the temple, can you imagine? The temples of Banaras being made, carved beautifully with idols of Ram, Sita, whatever, Shiv and Krishna and all of that, is being actually done by Muslims, right? And there is another Muslim figure, his friend, who ultimately betrays him, whatever. And there is a Hindu priest who gives him this work and who supports him, but he also does not have the guts to stand up against Hindutva. And ultimately, it is very sad because, and
he's abandoned, because he's abandoned in a sense.
Yeah, he is not able to stand. He also doesn't know what's going on. So it's Ram Navami Day, and all of that, and the big temple, new temple is just being inaugurated, and the unveiling of the murtis is going on. Meanwhile, he's betrayed by his Muslim friend and handed over to a Hindutva mob that kills him. And cinematically, it's also done very beautifully because, he works through the night because the Panditji tells him that don't work during the day.
People shouldn't see you.
Yeah. So he arrives there in trouser and shirt and then changes into a lungi and kurta and all that, does the work the whole night and goes and does his Fajr namaz on the banks of the river. And he says Banaras is such a beautiful city. He loves Banaras and he loves the culture of Banaras.
Like Bismillah Khan.
Yes, yes. And in the morning when he's doing his namaz, you hear the temple bells and you hear the call for the namaz, and the soundtrack weaves these together. This is what Banaras is. People have forgotten that Banaras is not just a Hindu city; it's also a Muslim city, and in the ending, and for no fault of his, except that he's a Muslim who's doing this. So there are smaller films
which are breaking through,
which are breaking this dominance.
And the importance of this resistance is really important.
Yes.
Harish, we're running out of time, but I do. Right. The Dalit story of depiction is different. The Dalit was almost invisible, even in our progressive cinema. And you had a small, gentle film like Sujata and so on, but there was very little of the presence of the Dalit in our mainstream cinema. That has changed dramatically. Right. So would you like to talk about the last 25 years and how the Dalit has been depicted? Right. Is it a positive sign? Is there...
No, of course, it's a very positive sign. Why? Because as I said that for a very long time, the issue of social justice, for that matter, or social injustice, hardly found any space in the mainstream or even in the parallel cinema. Even for that matter, those, as you said, that the progressive genre of our cinema
talked about class, talked about communalism, but didn't talk about
right. No, but caste. At least in parallel cinema, there are instances.
Even Ankur, for instance,
or Par or Damul, all these great films are surely talked about caste. But there was, of course, what they call the stereotypical representation of Dalits as wretched, as a raped body, as a very, very poor and backward. So that stereotypicalness was very much there vis-a-vis the representation in parallel cinema,
and also passive. So you're passive victim,
or dependent or wretched. So that possibility that Dalits can be also shown as a hero figure or angry figure, or who can bring some change. That possibility was never articulated. Like for that matter, Diwar, the surname of the character is Verma. He is of course part of the trade union, the working class, and living on the footpath.
But not Dalit.
Yes. Right. So that possibility was very much there. That your hero is basically part of the lower middle class, but his caste will always remain upper caste. And therefore, this distancing from Dalits.
Raj Kapoor was also never a Dalit.
Never. Yeah. All his films are about migrant laborer, but most of these films are about migrant laborer, but never about the caste.
But there are films like Shri 420 in which there is a way,
hints.
There are, and also the fact that the Raj Kapoor figure, actually speaks up for social justice and talks about a new India and housing society for.
So, though what
but the hero had to be.
He cannot. So that distancing from the heroic character. For a very long time, we hardly had a Dalit hero. Even the presence of Ambedkar was not recognized. That he is such an important figure in the political space. He has
even on the walls.
Even on the walls, right? Yes. So that has changed probably late 80s, 90s for sure. And one of the major reasons for the arrival of the Dalit representation or Dalit stories on screen is basically Dalit movement across the India. Uttar Pradesh for sure, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Bihar.
I would argue that it's probably the most progressive stream of the last 25 years has been in the depiction of the Dalit. Yes.
And it's a nuanced depiction. It's not one peculiar kind. That there are, of course, heroic Dalit figure like, for that matter, Newton or Masan or Manjhi or even Ranbir Kapoor's Shamshera. Shamshera, if you watch Shamshera, it's a superhero film, and his social background is about untouchability.
Okay.
So even the big budget films are about these issues. So there is a kind of a small arrival where the Dalits are also projected as an aspirational being who can change and bring some kind of an order, or Bhil, where the Dalit character is a police inspector. So that possibility is now there is a possibility emerging.
Yes.
And of course, apart from that, the Dalit women characters are also
some of the Marathi films, I mean, like Fandri, etc., were very beautiful depictions.
So maybe it's a regional cinema that forced Hindi cinema to take notice of the Dalits. Tamil cinema for sure, for arrival of Paranjit, Vetrimaran and Mari Selvaraj. These are the three dynamic figures that change the dynamics of Tamil cinema in a very, very aggressive and radical way.
And Marathi, made it commercially viable.
Yes. That's the beauty of that cinema. And in Marathi, Nagaraj Manjule and Sailesh Narwade, these are the two very important figures, Jayanti and Sairat. Super films, and that showed that Dalit stories can also be commercially successful, that they can have an audience, they can have a recipient, and that made possible Tamil cinema and Marathi cinema particularly, and that probably followed in Hindi cinema. And then of course people like Neeraj Ghaiwan, who earlier made Masan. He was part of a bigger production house associated with Anurag Kashyap, and then of course made move with big corporate houses and made wonderful films. He was also the director of Sacred Games, huge commercial enterprise.
But in a very beautiful interview, he talked about, like in Homebound, the Dalit boy comes out only towards the end. He said, I also took time to come out, which was, I was very moved to.
Now, of course, that's a wonder of that film, that it is not a rhetorical film at all. It's a very psychologically oriented film which somewhere touches you in a very deeper way, rather than just in your face. That's why, and this is the kind of what you call magic of Ghaiwan's direction. In Gilli Pucci, he did the same. In Masan, he did the same. And again, Homebound is an extremely brilliant and artistically well-made film. So such kind of a technicians which are now coming up in Hindi or in Marathi or in Tamil. But compared to the Muslim representation, which is now enlarged, huge, the reason is, of course, there are so many technicians, directors, producers, and there's a legacy of the film industry. That legacy and those technicians are not there with the Dalit and Bahujan communities. It is the elite, you need an elite to make a film, political, social, and of course the economic elite. That resource is unavailable to the Dalits. Muslims, of course, as I said, there is a whole legacy in Hindi cinema, long legacy. They are the industry builders.
They are absolutely.
They have made that industry.
They are the nation builders.
They are the nation building.
They build our cities. They farm our lands. They give us food.
So their participation in today's time, like for that man, you just recall Farhan or Farhan Akhtar or Zoya Akhtar, everywhere. Writers.
They are the.
So you'll find that without a participation of such great technicians, imagining a good film, a good Hindi film is very difficult. They, like Dhurandhar, the Irshad Kamil wrote the lyrics. So without their participation, making a good Hindi film is very, very difficult. And through that participation, they also ensure that the representation, the Muslim representation, should also be good, not necessarily negative. And therefore, the Shah Rukh Khans and Salman Khans and Saifs, and so their presence somewhere create an aura, some kind of an aura in which these scripts are made. And therefore, we see these nuances today, that we have this terrible Hindutva genre, and we also have a cinema which represents Muslims in a very significant and a nuanced way. But that possibility is not with the Dalits and the other lower caste communities today. Why? Because of the absence of the elite who can churn or give a direction to a good film.
But it's increasing.
It is increasing.
But I'm saying that people like Neeraj and
Nagraj
and so on have shown us that there is enormous talent just waiting for the opportunity.
And Tamil cinema. I mean, it's just like
that change. And that's what Hindi cinema has to learn from Tamil. If they have to Malayalam also somehow.
So friends, I mean, this is actually really a wonderful conversation. We talked about the Nazification of our cinema. We saw where power and money are pushing our cinema in one direction. But there is a progressive humanist alternative cinema that has also grown, and has grown wonderfully in the last 25 years. And I think the resistance of this cinema is what we would celebrate at the end of this quarter century. Just before we end, I can't resist with two wonderful film scholars next to me. I'm going to put you on the spot, and you can take a little while, but what are your 5 favorite films of the last 5 years, Indian films? Okay. I'm giving you 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Last 5 films. For last 5 years.
Last 25 years. No, because
last 25.
Yeah, we've completed 25 years. I mean, just which comes, obviously, if you give it time, you'll probably think of others. What comes straight to your head?
Well, we've talked about Homebound, right? That's one.
Very
important. Also, Shazia Iqbal, we haven't mentioned her. Her film.
Dhadak 2, racing film. And earlier also.
Dhadak Bebak is her first. It's a wonderful film. Short film, 10 minutes. I think she's had to make some compromises, but just compare her Dhadak 2, and she didn't want it to be named Dhadak 2, with the mainstream Dhadak, which was remake of Sairat. Right? Completely different, losing its, and so on.
But still you have to tell me 5 films that you choose.
Immediately.
Immediately. But I'm putting you on a spot. But what are the first, okay, let me put it differently. Just when I put you on the spot, what are the 5 films that first come to your head and heart?
No, I mean, I also like, as far as mainstream is concerned, I did like Sanjay Leela Bhansali's film, Bajirao Mastani. I did like that very much in the form. I also like Pathan actually, and I was thinking yesterday about the difference between Pathan and Dhurandhar. There's a huge difference. That's another conversation. I like that.
Which we must come back to.
Yeah, yes. And then of course Homebound I've talked about, and Nakash. I mean, I think Nakash is a fabulous film, absolutely fabulous film for the reasons I've already mentioned, and. Of course, Homebound, Shazia Iqbal 2, Bajirao. What are the other films?
Quite good enough.
4. I've talked about 4. He wants 5. Okay, you do your 5 and I'll think of.
And I'll also tell you. I hadn't planned this, but I'm going to tell you.
It's a wonderful question, right? Because we need to answer this. One recent film I like is Bison, Mari Selvaraj's sports drama, Tamil film, wonderful film. That is about, again, kind of the question of merit and talent, and how even our sport complex is basically managed, controlled, ordered by some kind of a caste anxieties. Wonderful film. Bison is another film, again sports drama, Sarpata Parambarai, Paranjit's film. Great film. Again, part 2 he's making now. These two films from Tamil.
And also the big one.
The big one. The Kamali and Kala, of course. Those are,
I also like that a lot.
Right. But Paranjit's, I liked Sarpata Parambarai better than Kala and Kabali. Bison,
I have to see that,
right. Hindi, of course, Homebound is one of the classics. I believe that it will make history for sure.
It has made history.
Yes, it has made history by going to Oscars.
Oscars is minor, I think.
But
it's already made history.
We don't always have to think that what makes it to the Oscar.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean, the Oscars are a minor part of this larger story. Yes.
And the other film which I liked is, of course, Gully Boy. Yes. I thought that this is a great entry point to depict what can be a new Dalit Muslim social. That how Muslims
it is a new Muslim social. Absolutely.
Life should be depicted, and what can be the idea of a new life for the Muslims. That is a wonderful
and with
film.
a feminist hero, which I liked a lot. Yes, he stands up for his mother.
Right, and I had another film in my mind. I'll come to that.
So both of you have one film each, and then
you can give yours.
Let me give. Yeah. So I literally I'm just doing it while I'm sitting here. I would have Homebound in Punjab 95.
Yeah, Punjab 95, but it hasn't released. So in that sense, so Punjab, I'd like to add that too.
So these are the two films that I immediately think of. There's a film that very few people have really talked about, but I show it whenever I teach about cinema as well. Is a film called A Billion Color Dream. I don't know whether you've seen it. It's absolutely
a brilliant color dream.
A billion color dream. It's about actually a Muslim man and a Hindu woman who are married. They make films. They're very happily settled abroad. But he loves his country so much that he comes back. And then what they face. It's a very, very beautiful film on... then Fandry.
Of course.
Fandry would be very high in my... just the top of the head kind of thing. And perhaps Mulk.
Mulk is a favorite of mine. Also. And also Afwa. I want to add Afwa to this.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it. You've seen it. No, it's a fantastic film, actually. Very complex and, and speaking to today's world, social media and how that goes. But yes, Mulk. It's
the Marathi film that I wanted to add it's a not very popular film called Atma Pamphlet. It's a
not seen.
It's a kind of a subversion view of Atma Katha. That Atma Kathas are basically for great people, but for a Dalit man, it will not be an Atma Katha, but it will be Atma Pamphlet because it's one page only.
Okay, wow.
It's a small story of life.
Very nice.
And it is a story of a young boy who is in school, who basically engages with multiple kinds of social relationship with a Muslim boy, with an upper caste man, and multiple other social identities, and how he responds to that. It's a kind of underrated film, but wonderfully made.
I look out for at least two films almost immediately, which is Nakash and Atma Pamphlet. I just love the name so much. I mean, so thank you, both of you. It was such an enjoyable conversation, and I think that the grimness of one kind of hateful cinema. I think what I'm going away with is a recognition that there's a lot of resistance.
Right. Yes.
There are films of resistance in however hard it's to find the money, to find release, but we are seeing films that are underlining our social equality, secular values, and humanism and kindness. I think and justice remain alive, and that's a sign of great hope. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. Thank you very much.
ये दाग दाग उजाला ये शब कसीदा सहर वो इंतजार था जिसका ये वो सहर तो नहीं